And welcome back. Animal Care Centers NYC is the only open admissions animal shelter in New York City and takes on an average of 30,000 animals every year. Now, individuals from all over New York City come to the centers for reasons as diverse as reclaiming lost pets, adopting new furry family members, and getting resources to help them keep their pets in their homes. Well, joining us now and sharing more details, we are pleased to have the Director of Marketing and Communications at Animal Care Centers of NYC, Katy Hansen. And Katy, good to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to have this conversation to talk a little bit about adopting, because many times not only are people into owning animals by just straight purchasing, a lot of people are really now and more engaging in the adoption of animals. And I know that's a work that's near and dear to your heart.
Yes, and we love the term adopt, don't shop. So yeah, we have plenty of animals of all different kinds, from dogs, cats, kittens, bunnies, guinea pigs. We have it.
Yeah. So when you talk about adopt, don't shop, that's a pretty powerful statement in itself. But give me, why is it important for people to consider adopting rather than shopping?
Well, all across the country, and of course, including New York City, we have pet overpopulation problems. And shelters are getting fuller and fuller with animals that have been surrendered by their owners or they've been abandoned, and they need homes. And there's so many of them. There's really no need to shop because we have such a wide array. I mean, if you figure there's 9 million people living in New York City, if they are surrendering their animals or somehow leaving their animals behind, we have a wide array from small to large. There's really no reason to shop. And when you adopt, it's also much cheaper, by the way, to adopt usually. All of our pets are vaccinated, they're microchipped, they're already spayed or neutered, they're really ready to go. So, and it's a benefit to the animals as well. I mean, they love being adopted, obviously. And so you are really saving a life when you're adopting.
Yeah. And when we talk about adopting, it's a process. And so for somebody who says, listen, this kind of intrigues me, what does that process entail if one wanted to adopt?
That's a good question. And it's important that people know about the process. So I'm glad you asked that. We do something called open adoptions, which is, maybe in the olden days, people had to fill out like a 20-page application. But we do open adoptions, which is basically like a one-page application. And then we have conversation-based conversations about what your lifestyle is, what you're looking for. Do you have kids? Do you have access to a park? So we do, it's more matchmaking, really. And that is how we get people to pick out the animals that are right for them. So you come in, we have this conversation, and then we show you around all the different animals. Our adoption counselors know all of the animals that we have and a little bit about each one. So you meet the animal, you interact with the animal, and then you say, you know what, I'm ready. And then you can do the adoption right there on site. And you go home. We have a whole package we give people with litter if you have a cat, with food, with everything. They've got the dog license, so you're ready to go. It's
Talk
really
to me
easy.
about, yeah, it sounds fairly easy, and I think somebody out there might be saying, I'll take part. And as I look at the work that you're doing right now, I said in the intro about 30,000 animals you take on every year. Give me a little bit about how it's been in COVID, through COVID. Have you seen more and more people say, listen, I have to surrender my animals because it's just becoming hard. We know a lot of people are dealing with food insecurity, a lot of people dealing with unemployment and underemployment. Are we finding a trend of more and more people surrendering their animals during this time?
Yeah, it's actually really, it's sad. What happened like right when the pandemic started, I'd say back in March of 2020, there was a rush for everyone to adopt because everyone's like, well, I'm going to be inside, I want to adopt, this is a good time. Um, and then now as the pandemic has progressed and it's in a different stage, there are a lot of people that are surrendering their pets now, not the ones that they adopted during the pandemic, But these are families that are going through really hard times. They've lost a job, they've lost their housing. Most of the time when we get dogs, for instance, coming in, it's because they've lost housing, or they're moving in with friends or family that don't allow dogs. So it's the surrenders are now slowly creeping back up. So last year we went down to like 14,000 animals coming in. So it was great for us. People weren't going outside, so they weren't finding stray animals and bringing them in and so forth. But now we are seeing an increase, and we're actually seeing a decrease in adoptions, which is a really bad combination to have right now.
How long does it take before a pet becomes lost before they become up for adoption?
Well, there is a stray hold period for any animal that comes in without any identification, and that is 3 days. So if a dog comes in and there's no identification, their picture and all their information goes up on our website, so that people can locate them if they're checking our website. And then after the 3 days are up, then they are examined medically and behaviorally and placed up for adoption or for a rescue partner. But the good news is, if you have a microchip or if you have any identification, then the stray hold is 10 days. So we really recommend that people have microchips and some type of license or collar.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of questions about the microchip and wondering whether or not that would be a good way to go for their animal. The benefits, of course, of having a microchip is being able to locate your animal. But talk about that conversation, because there are a lot of pet owners right there who are somewhat skeptical of using that microchip.
Yeah, I mean, microchip, the great thing about the microchip is it's always there. It's not going to come off like a collar would come off. And actually, people sometimes don't even think, well, I have a cat. Why do I need a microchip? But you just never know when your cat is going to escape. And if it's an indoor cat, you know, it's probably not likely to have a collar. The other benefit of a microchip is that any type of veterinary facility, hospital, or other shelters can scan. We all have these universal scanners, and even our field drivers have universal scanners. So you put the little machine up to the neck, because that's where the microchip is, and it sends out all the information. So sometimes we can even return an animal before they've even come to the shelter.
Wow, amazing. So if
And it
people want
doesn't hurt them.
oh, that's the other question, because I think there's a question about how much pain would that animal feel being chipped.
So the microchip itself is about the size of a small grain of rice. It goes in like 2 seconds, and then they never feel it.
Pretty interesting. So for somebody who wants to think about and considers about adoption, how do they go about doing that?
Well, the first thing I always tell people is go to our website. That's where you're going to find all the animals that we have available for adoption, the ones that are in foster, the ones that are in Manhattan or Brooklyn or Staten Island, and then take a look at those animals. And if you see one that you like, there's a little button that you press and it says, start the conversation, adopt me. And it's really easy from there. The directions are there every step of the way. Or if people are just interested in adopting, they can always just come to the shelter.
Katy Hansen, I want to thank you so much for being with us, sharing with us a little bit about pets and the adoption process. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
We want our viewers to know, if you want more information, don't hesitate to visit the website at nycacc.org, or of course, visit them on the social media platform at NYC ACC. All right, well, we do have more show coming up. Don't go anywhere, because Open continues coming up in a few.